Blessed be, ladies and gents, Merry Samhain. Like a great many other witches, I've just finished my Samhain ritual and I'm feeling pretty zenned out, although I'm quite ill. I don't know if you can hear that in my voice on the video, but I am very, very chesty. And I was a bit worried actually when I woke up this morning that the ritual was not going to go as planned because I'm feeling so unbelievably under the weather. But it went really well. It took about an hour and 15 minutes, all in all, and I got everything done that I wanted to do during it, and I felt just this overwhelming surge of love and oneness and all that good hippie shit, and I just feel amazing. It is my favourite festival of the eight-spoked wheel of the year, and I just feel like I really did it justice this year. I'm really happy with it. Nothing could have gone any better than it did, so I think that's great. This guy behind me is Sergey. He is my scary ghoul that my boyfriend bought for me. I totally love him. And I'm kind of one of those people that very much mixes up Samhain and Halloween. I appreciate the complementary nature of Halloween and how it stems from the Gaelic New Year. And although I sort of honour the reasons why certain aspects of Halloween have come around the way they have due to its relationship with Celtic New Year, I still also appreciate Halloween in its own right as a chance to like watch scary movies and freak each other out and enjoy, particularly in this country, that week between Halloween and fireworks night, which is just so filled with a deep reverence for winter and darkness and exciting lights and scary masks and just getting into the atmosphere, the bonfires, the trick-or-treating. Absolutely love it, and it just sort of feeds into my spirituality so much more. So I definitely don't see Samhain and Halloween as separate entities. I see them very much as complementing one another, and I really get into the spirit of Halloween. And I buy like lots of Halloween trinkets and stuff, and obviously, and I know I'm not alone here, grabbing cheap black candles while they're reduced is a joy for any witch, really is. So yeah, there are a lot of good things we can sort of pick up after Halloween's been and gone that are very useful on our altars for, you know, the rest of the year, and not just to tap into the Halloween spirit. So I have no real idea where this video is going to go. I just wanted to maybe discuss a few things about how my ritual went and how I feel about ritual in general. Why it's so central to my practice, maybe. I don't know why I'm giving you an itinerary, an outline of what it's going to be about, because I really don't know. And as I said, I'm really stuffy and my head's all over the place, so I'm not really sure how useful this video is going to be. It's probably not going to be very much of a resource, but it's probably going to be quite vlogish, I suppose. Samhain is one ritual that I do every year without fail, and that I absolutely adore. And it just seems to get more and more complex as time goes on and as I add more elements into my path and more ideas into practice, which is great. And this Samhain ritual for me had a very strong theme of deity and connecting with my patron goddess. I don't know if I've mentioned it in other videos, perhaps I have, but my patron goddess is Hel, the Norse goddess of the underworld. And although I think about her and my place in my life, her place in my life and her place in my practice all the time, Samhain is really obviously my time to venerate her and celebrate her, because, you know, Samhain is all about the thinning of the veils between the living and the dead, honouring the ancestors, honouring the dark energy, that kind of thing. So it really does a lot for me to connect with her on a personal basis at this time of the year, and as I said, to venerate her as well. So, you know, the themes of Hel and Helheim and her stories and her place in Norse mythology really follows me into the circle a great deal during Samhain, and this year was no exception. In fact, I really feel a strong bond with her and everything she represents at this moment in time, and it just feels really great. I can't really remember how I came to Hel being my patron deity, or Hel being the deity that I feel most connected to, but I know that it's been that way for a couple of years now, and I know that I'm not really sure that it could be any other way at this point in time. You know, she really speaks to me on a very deep level. And what I was thinking about during my ritual time today in the ritual space was the story of Balder and the way he dies because he's tricked by Loki. Balder is like the Norse god of light and love and poetry, much loved by the Norse people, much loved by pagans in general, was considered to be sort of the overriding energy for rune work and herbal magic and healing, and he was considered to have a very strong link with the runes as well, so really important god. He was Odin's son, and without going into the long and short of, a Norse myth that you may or may not be particularly interested in, he is tricked by Loki, he dies, and he descends into the underworld, Helheim, which is ruled by Hel. And the story goes on that his brother goes down to Hel, to Hel's realm, Helheim, to ask for his brother's return on the basis that everybody in Midgard loves him, that it was a mistake that he died through trickery, and he shouldn't in fact be in the realm of Helheim. And Hel is fair and she's diplomatic, and she says, you know what, if you can get every single thing and person in Midgard to cry for Balder and to state that they want him to come back to Middle-earth, then I will release him, I will let him go, and he can be with you again. At which point, everything in the land cries for Balder. Every object, every god, every person, everything wants his safe return, basically. And Loki kind of disguises himself as this mischievous giantess who lives in a cave. I believe her name is Thok. And basically, this giantess refuses to cry for Balder. And on that basis, Hel does not release Balder back to the land of the living, but in fact keeps him in the realm of Helheim. And it was this particular story that I felt really drawn to during my ritual tonight, because I've always thought that that story leads down a pathway of acceptance of death, and I really felt that Hel's overriding point of view in that story, and the moral that she was trying to get across, is that not even gods have any real hand in death, and that death is part of the cycle, and that we can't change death no matter how much we want to, no matter how much we try, and that we should accept death rather than fearing it, because it is part of the great circle. And this is probably the main message that Hel has given to me. And the relationship that I have with death, and I'll probably go into it in other videos, has been very much tested this year. Excuse me, I'm really ill, sorry. I've never really had a fear of death, per se. I've always been very pantheistic and very at one with the idea that death is part of the circle. I don't necessarily believe for myself in personal reincarnation, so I don't believe that my actual essence as a human being will go on. I believe that, the life that flows through me will transfer itself into something else, but I believe that, the me that I am now, Kellyanne, it's just something that occupies this vessel, and it will never occupy this vessel or any other space again. The thoughts and feelings and the essence of who I am as an individual have come from the society that surrounds me, the environment that I'm in, the things my parents have given to me as an inheritance, and so on, my personal experiences. And those things are a one-time thing for me. So I don't believe in reincarnation in any personal sense, or in any sense that I will remember. So I think that acceptance of death on that basis is probably even easier in a way, because I really feel like in order to accept death fully and 100%, and to kind of make my peace with it ultimately, I really need to be down with the idea that I'm one day going to be fertilising daffodils. I'm one day going to look rather like Sergei behind me. And that's going to be it for me, lights out. So, I've come to an accepting, all-encompassing love of death, and I really do believe that without death life would be meaningless. If I could do everything tomorrow, and there was never any chance that I would cease to be, then nothing would hold any meaning, and I wouldn't experience any passion, and love wouldn't feel like it does, and the pursuit of art wouldn't feel like it does, the pursuit of knowledge wouldn't feel half as good as it does. So death for me is the spark of my life. Death is what gives it its meaning, it's what gives it its power and its force. So I've always had that feeling. And then I think coming up for 3/4 of a year ago now, I had some kind of really weird transpersonal breakdown almost, where I became very centered upon ego again, and on grabbing hold of who I am and not wanting to let go of that, and everything became very centered around the individual for me, and there was almost like a transpersonal block, and my relationship with death became strained. I'm gonna say that. I don't know how much more complex I can go with it, because it gets quite abstract, but I really feel like tonight's ritual has given me a chance to reassess how I feel and to balance a few things out for me, so that was really great. And I also found with tonight's ritual that I was very 50-50 between things that had been planned out and written in advance and pored over and really considered to be important, and then those other elements that were completely spontaneous and came out of nowhere, and I just really felt that I wanted to do those things. And I actually really appreciate that 50-50 between spontaneous and planned. I think that's a really good thing. And most of the rituals that I carry out in a circle to mark one of the 8 points of the year will be largely planned out, but I will never let that spontaneity go. You know, if I feel driven to do something particular or driven towards an action that wasn't part of the plan, then I'll definitely go with it. And one last thing that I wanted to say tonight was that I actually engaged in a little bit of bibliomancy tonight, and it was before I actually drew out my circle, so it was before I was in the sacred space. Normally at the end of a ritual, before I actually sort of thank the divine and get down to the business of closing the circle and then grounding myself and cakes and ale and all that good stuff, I do tend to normally select a poem which kind of sums up my pantheistic worldview and also kind of speaks to me on a personal level about the way I feel at the time of the ritual. I'm a huge lover of literature. I have literary tattoos and stuff like that, which I'm just going to add to. It's just become more and more of a collection. By the end of my life, I want to look like Guy Pearce in Memento, basically. So yeah, huge lover of prose and poetry. And I often feel that I can find a poem that is basically like a microcosm of the macrocosm, if you will. It's basically, it sums up perfectly how I feel about a given time and place. So I tend to find a poem before I get into the ritual space, and I take the book into the circle with me, and it will be that poem that I kind of choose to close on. And so tonight I did a little bit of bibliomancy to try and find a poem that was appropriate. And literally, I just opened a page of this book and the most perfect poem came to me. I really had no idea exactly how perfect it would be, but I'm a big believer in the power of bibliomancy anyway. I absolutely love it as a divinatory system and as a system for self-development and self-exploration. I'm a huge fan of it, and I've been thinking lately that I might do some videos on it at some point. But just to show you exactly how weirdly synchronistic this bibliomancy was for me, I'm going to read the poem that I actually selected at random to close the circle for this year. And just considering that it's Samhain and that my patron deity is Hel, and Hel is the goddess of the underworld, and it's now October, and it's all about sort of thinning the veils and accepting death and so on, this poem was eerily and spookily accurate. And I'm getting to that stage now on my path where I'm not surprised by the power of synchronicity. And I'm not adverse to the idea of meaningful randomness, or that the divine can show itself in any number of very inexplicable and apparently random ways. So, you know, for me to even be kind of a little bit taken aback by this, it means that it definitely was synchronistic indeed. It's by Lucy Brock Broido, and it's called Soul Keeping Company. The hours between washing and the well of burial are the soul's most troubled time. I sat with her in keeping company, all through the afflict of the night, keeping soul constant, a second self. Earth is heavy, and I made no wish, save being merely magical. I am magical no more, this I well remember well. In the sweet thereafter, the impress of the senses will be tattooed to the whole world, ravelling in the clemency of an autumn of Octobers, all that bounty bountiful, and the oaks, specifically of fire, as everything dies off, inclining to the merciful. I would have made of my body a body to protect her, anything to keep her well and here, in the soul sweet before 5 tons of earth will bear on her. Stay here, soul, in the good night of my company. Just unbelievably synchronistic and perfect for the ritual that I was doing and the mindset that I was in, and also to celebrate Hel as a goddess and as a presence in my life, and you know, celebrating everything that she means to me, both figuratively and literally. It was just a perfect little moment of bibliomantic romance for me, and I just loved it. And it was just a perfect way to enter the circle. I love it when stuff like that happens. It reminds me of how close the magical and the mundane really are, that they truly are cousins, and they truly do kind of overlap so perfectly. And that's about all I wanted to say, and I feel kind of bad that I've been up here chilling out with my cakes and ale while there's probably been trick-or-treaters at the door downstairs, but because I live in a 3-storey house I haven't been able to hear any of the children, so I feel quite bad about that, and I do hope they managed to fill up their bags, but you know, I had more important things to do tonight, clearly. So, and what with my ale being cider, of course, apples, sacred to Hel, and sacred to Samhain in general, you know, I'm up here chilling and doing my thing, so I do hope that they had a good trick-or-treat. And blessed be, and as above, so below, and have a great Samhain, people.